All right, welcome to another energizing episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder, coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Joined by my awesome co-host, Mr. King James Stallcup, over there in Big Sky Country, Texas, giving a hook of horns from the Mile High City. Appreciate you, James. Dude, I think that intro is like way better, man. Thanks to Willie Snyder Records for producing a new one. But pretty awesome. I got my own recording label, so I'll be out there crushing some new songs out there, and pretty cool that I could produce our very own intro song. But it's really awesome. I have a lot of fun doing this. I really tried to do justice to what you want to do for your myth. I had a lot of people that were kind of just a little confused as far as what I was trying to say. It was a little bit tricky, but we're going to explain to you tonight kind of the angle that King James was trying to go with the myth of the week. I think I'll do a little bit different one next week. It's really fun to just have the level of participation and just get people involved. And, like the electrical code discussion for awesome electricians, it's everyone's starting to kind of know who we are and what we're about. And we're just always trying to kind of push that level of education. And like I say, speaking of education, I had to spend my whole 4th of July weekend just doing continuing education, but got her done. Got my CEUs done for state of Colorado, and I'll tell you what, there was a lot of mistakes in the publication I was using. So, no secret, it's Jade. I looked at I looked up the cheapest and the best one I could get, and it was Jade, and there was a lot of mistakes in there, and I was surprised. And then, so I actually posted one of the questions this week. I don't know if you're able to find the code question of the week for our man versus machine, but actually that question is from Jade from my continuing education, and it was funny because I actually reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, is it all right if I use some of these questions? And they're like, yeah, go for it. You bought the program, so thought that was pretty cool. And speaking of getting a program, there's nothing better than the old Stall Cup over there at Learn Worlds, and that is the true legend right there, all put online. So pretty awesome that you're able to do that, put that all online and everything, and
Well, we're making some big changes that are coming up. We're going to have a website that interacts with it, and it's laid out pretty cool looking. And we're still working on a few things there, and then updating with all the new illustrations we're having to redo and everything. So we got a lot going on, but hopefully here by first year we'll have everything cooking back up and everything tied together. It's going to be really kick-ass looking when we finish.
Nice. Sweet. Well, I don't know what is going on with those people that went and climbed the Empire State Building, but man, there were just so many memes that are floating around. So I had to pop it in there for a meme this week.
I may have the wrong meme what you're talking about. Well, I'll go ahead and play it and we'll see.
Okay, cool.
Was that it?
No, yeah. So that was actually a funnier one because, ever since I've been an electrician, I call it a lock ring.
Yeah.
And when my apprentice comes up, if my apprentice came up and said, "Hey, hand me a lock nut," I'd be like, "Here's the lock nut, out of my screw jar, out of my, bolt bin, And so it was pretty funny. We had a pretty spirited argument about that because if you go look in the NEC, it says lock nut. It says lock nut in the National Electric Code.
Yeah.
But I've never called it a lock nut. I've always called it a lock ring.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny little argument, and I always like making those kind of memes where she just shows the argument going back and forth like your little kids, you know. And I don't know what do you call it?
I've always called it a lock mess.
Okay, so it's the true spirit of the debate that you'd call it a lock net, I'd call it a lock ring, but
That's good niggers down here in Texas called a lock.
Man, down there in the armpit of America, you know. So, yeah, but no, it's a lot of fun to do these, and like I say, we had a lot of participation, and you know.
Where's the
what is that?
Of the week, Willie?
Right here, Mackie.
All right, let's roll it.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right, well, this is a little bit of an old-timer myth that goes back to King James's days out in the field. I never really experienced too much of this in my days in the field. Like, I pretty much got in the field around 95, and I don't think that this practice is really being done too much. But this is where you have a 3-wire feeder going from the primary dwelling to like a detached building, and then what you're doing is you're actually using the equipment ground as the neutral, or using the neutral as the equipment ground, whichever way you want to look at it. I don't think it really makes too much difference, but it's crazy because they were not only were they doing this, but it was back in an era. I want to say it was in early 90s when they were doing this, and it was legal. And like, I remember you saying you never did this before and you wouldn't do it, but it was actually an exception that was permitted in the code. And so I kind of want to give you a little bit of an illustration. A lot of people said that equipment ground would actually be called a grounding electrode conductor, which that would be incorrect, because
no, it didn't.
You're actually grounding electrode conductors at your primary dwelling, and then it's an equipment grounding conductor going to the additional building on a subbreaker. So maybe the illustration could have been misleading as far as the way it shows it, but it is not two separately derived systems. It's only one separately derived system, and then it has a subbreaker that goes over. It has a feeder going to that separate building. So maybe that was possibly a little bit of confusion from people. But the way I tried to write this was that the NEC never allows this, and it actually does. I want to say it's 250-32B2 exception, I believe.
I've got it all put together for everybody.
Okay.
The reason I thought this was pretty good, because back, God, man, it was like early 2000, maybe 2001, Richard Lloyd, Dick Lloyd, we called him. He worked for the Piping Association, and they were always at the meetings and stuff. And he was doing a class at NFPA at the convention, and it was going over about using metal piping as an equipment grounding conductor. And I went in and said it was a program that was put together, and they basically were showing the conduit was actually a better equipment ground than running an equipment ground. And that's what the class was about. And it was all the testing and studying and everything that was done at Georgia Tech University.
And I remember we had an episode where we discussed that, and somebody messaged me and they said, "Man, I cannot believe it. Once you guys mentioned that a metal pipe, in direct contact with earth is actually a better ground than a conductor."
Yeah.
And he would have never realized that.
When I explained it all, because we went through that, actually, it's funny because my coat was actually in the class and he kept interrupting the whole time. Oh, go to mycoat.com. You know, he just kept doing that. And if Richard Lloyd was alive today, he'd tell you all this happened.
Right.
Dad will tell you because he was in there. But no, he was teaching another class, and then Dick Lloyd told him what happened. And Mike had made a reference on this particular one. He said, you're always required to run a neutral over and isolate it. And you couldn't use a neutral as an equipment ground. I raised my hand, that isn't correct. And at that time, you were looking at 250. It was actually two sections. It wasn't even an exception. It was 250.32 B1 and B2 when it first did this. And I think it was 99 code. And
Right.
I was going through explaining it, and he goes, that's an exception to the general rule. I said, now, Mike, I said, you've been teaching code for how long now? And I said,
51 years.
Yeah, not at that time. and I said, you should know if it's an exception, it would be in as an exception. I said, that's full code text. That means you have the option to install it either way, just like they were doing at ranges. And he goes,
Yeah.
well, what I mean, this is the way you should do it. Anyway, after he got called out, he wasn't in there about another 10 minutes. He packed his stuff up and left. So he got embarrassed, basically. So
hey, this is Mike Holt with MikeHolt.com.
Yeah. And when you look at this is the 2026 NEC. And basically it talks about the equipment grounding conductor. And it's just going to tell you it's required to be run with the supply conductors, and that you're required to connect it to the enclosure containing the building or structure disconnecting means. And then, of course, since you do that, since it's another building or structure, you got to tie it into the grounding electrode system. So that's going to be tied into the grounding electrode conductor coming back up. So basically, you're using that equipment grounding conductor to do what? Ground and bond. It's for your grounding or bonding of what? Your equipment, any type of structures, frames, anything that's required to be grounded or bonded. And then, of course, if you're sizing your equipment grounding conductor, you do it in accordance with what? 250.122. That goes without saying. Now it goes in there and says, installed grounded conductor shall not be connected to the equipment grounding conductors or to the grounding electrodes. That's the last sentence in B1, and then there's the exception down there. And it says, for installations made in compliance with previous editions of the codes. Okay, so, and you'll see the same thing where equipment grounding conductors were not run to the supply, to the building or structure. There were no continuous metallic paths between the buildings or structures that are involved where you're running the feeder to. And there was no GFPE of equipment that was installed, of course, on the supply side of the feeder. All right. Now, when you come over here and you look at, and we didn't really need that. Let me go over and show this one time. Because if you were applying that exception, you had to take and determine the size based off whatever the calculated neutral load was. And at that time, it was 220.61. They've moved that up in the 2026 code. That'll be now 120.61. So you size the neutral, and then you size your equipment grounding conductor based on the overcurrent device that's feeding that building or structure on table 251.22. And whichever is the largest of the two, that's the one you're going to use. Okay.
Yeah, and just to give a big shout out to the gentleman that made the comment that it was a grounding electrode conductor. That's really important to distinguish that it's equipment grounding conductor, because that's where you're sizing off that 250.122 table, not off 250.66 or 250.102C1.
Right. So if you look here, this was 1996, and you'll see it talks about two or more buildings or structures supplied from a common system. Then it talks about grounded systems. And then you got B1 and B2. You don't see an exception here. So if you add an equipment grounding conductor, at that time, you size it off section 250-118, which is now 250.122. Okay.
Okay.
So we did it there. Then it gives you the option. If you didn't have an equipment grounding conductor, you can take and use the grounded conductor as the equipment grounding conductor if the equipment grounding conductor was not run with a supply to the building or structure, and there are no continuous metallic paths bonded to the grounding electrode system, and both buildings or structures involved. And then it's got the GFP protection of the equipment has not been installed on the supply side of that feeder. So
Right.
you got the exact same ones, but you have the option here. You could have used the grounded conductor as the equipment ground too, and based over, and it still has the same requirements. Whichever was the largest of the two is, well, let me rephrase that. In the 96, it wasn't like that. It was in the 99 that they come in and said the larger of the two had to be used.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that is the myth really is and I think that changed probably, I think 2002. I think they changed that. And then you had to take and run the equipment ground and neutral over there no matter what. And then they referred back where you would have the exception. So up to 96 and 99, you may have run into this type of installation.
Sure.
I'll tell you something that sort of reminds me of a little bit too. Right at that time, and if you go back and look, you're going to see in 96 and 99 and 2002, you're going to see a lot of grounding stuff that took place. Well, when you look at that, why was there a lot of grounding that took place? Well, another good example of one was, remember when, what was it called, 2YK, and every computer was going to shut down and everything because the numerical system in the year 2000. And then what ended up happening at that point? Well, you started seeing all these homes and everything coming in, putting in these generators. And what ended up happening, we didn't really have requirements in there that were explaining how to do that. And so then you saw where they come in and they made a big change, and they started classifying what was considered a separately derived system and what wasn't a separately derived system. And it all was based on what? The transfer switch, whether you were switching that neutral or not. So there were a lot of changes that took place at this time in 96 to 99 and 2002 in grounding based on this. And then a little bit later, you saw them come in and they just relayed out the whole grounding section. And if you go back and look at our design book, you're going to see it pretty much lines up with our design book. Because back then, if you remember, if I was looking at that, they were telling you for the grounding system and everything, remember, you had to have continuous continuity and all that stuff. That was in 250-51. Then they ended up moving it over to 250.4 at the front, which is where we started everything off, was at the service, and then we broke it out from there. And it's funny because when we were teachers, and I can have Mark Odie on there, he'll tell you this is a fact, and he said he started teaching it this way too. When we would go out and teach grounding and bonding, we used to teach two aspects to grounding and bonding. You had the load side and you had the line side. And if you're on the load side, now you'll be looking at, you use table 250.66 and table 250.102C1. And if you're on the line side, you're looking at equipment ground stuff, you're using table 250.122. And you're looking at, that's how those tables are used, load side and line side. And we taught that way. And Mark was sitting with my grounding class. He goes, I never really thought of it that way. He goes, that's the perfect way to teach that. And he started teaching it that way.
Nice. One of the things I wanted to ask too was, can you remember what, like back then, 96, 99, were they driving a ground rod at that service?
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were driving ground rods, but the thing they didn't have where you had to add the additional, you just had to be 25 ohms or less to ground.
True.
And then that's when they would drive another. And then what was interesting about that, and I think it was about that time, I'd have to go back and check with IEEE to see when they started doing the real testing on them ground rods. That's when they come out, the code said it couldn't be less than 6 foot. But if you actually went and looked at the EEE document, and I think that was in the Green Book, I think it was, they went in and did the testing. And if you had an 8-foot rod, they tell you to go 16 foot away. That way you wouldn't impede on the resistance of the other rod.
True, and I almost always go like 8 foot on mine after we did that podcast.
Well, if you remember, I did that when we did it, and I actually showed being 6 foot away and showing you got a pretty good percentage of the rod. But as you did more rods like that, the percentage went down quite a bit on because you were impeding on the next rod twice. So you kept doing that, and you kept impeding on the rods at 6 foot. And we showed what those percentages was, and we got all that information and testing that was done with IEEE. Matter of fact, I think we were the only publication that even showed you that stuff. I don't think nobody ever showed any of that. But
looks like Daniel's ready to come back for some more.
He made it back. Another thing I want to do is apologize for being there last week. I don't know if I'm sure Bill told everybody, but Dad failed. And what I think it was, they gave him this medicine, and it was to get rid of the fluid. It was a water pill. And he went from like 205, something like that, to 160 within like a week and a half. And we went and ate. He was doing great, and he went out to the mailbox, and then he walked down the street talking to some lady, come back, and of course it's 100 degrees outside. He shouldn't have been out in it anyway. I mean, he's freaking 86 years old. He still thinks he's fucking spring chicken.
And I started laughing when you were telling me that story because he forgot his key, and he's like ringing the doorbell, and you're like, what are you doing?
I came out, I said, what the hell you doing? I said, where you been? And he goes, I just walked out. I said, you shouldn't be out in this freaking heat. And then I was fixing some dinner for him because he's having to watch what he eats, and I'm cooking him really healthy meals. And he eats everything, and we're sitting there, and I'm working, like I usually do. And he goes, I'm going to get some grapes. He gets up, and he gets right to the kitchen door, and he just sort of stops, and he's sort of standing there, and I sort of see it, and I start to get up. Next thing I know, he's falling backwards, and as he's going straight back, he hits the door jamb with his head, and he had a big old knot on his head. It was all different colors. He hit it so hard and come down, hit the floor. His ass was sore, his back was sore, and his head, he had a little blood leak in his head. So they had to watch that. They did like three or four C scans on him. And then they finally come in and told him that was going to be okay. But he was there for 4 days. And, I was going back and forth, watching that. And I mean, we just got through the other thing. It was just one thing after another the last month. I was like, good God, man. So,
yeah, and it gave me a chance to pick up my guitar, throw some nice little leads in our intro, make it a little, spruce it up a little better. But, I did pop on and, kind of tell everyone what's going on, and at least just kind of thank everyone. David Englehart was here last week. Just appreciate everyone showing up and just, saying hi. And like I say, Daniel's here for a reason because he wants to be the Willie Quiz champ on Facebook. He wants to defend his title, so.
Well, I was all ready last week to whoop up on him, and I just couldn't do it. I just had to deal with Dad. So, but yeah, he's doing better now. I went and got him a walker, and he's like, "Oh, I don't need no walker. That's for old people." I said, "Yeah, well, you're going to use it." And I was in there making something for him tonight. And here he comes walking in there, and I said, "What the fuck's your walker?" He goes, "Oh, I'm fine." He had like a little cane he leans on. He come in there and finally sat down, and I fixed him some stuff to eat and everything. And then he just kept screwing around. And I finally, I said, he got up and he walked in there to do something. I was watching him, following him, and I said, what you need to do, you need to go back in your room there and you need to go get in your chair, watch your freaking Christian or Western movies and quit walking around. And he just, he doesn't want to listen. I don't know what to say. He's hard.
That was so funny. Like when you're telling me the story, like all of a sudden you're like, yeah, doorbell rings. I'm like, who the hell's at the door? And I forgot my key. Like, what are you doing out there? And he just running around, talking to the neighbor, block away, 100-degree heat, just thinks he's still 30 years old,
I couldn't believe he was there. I was like, you gotta freaking be kidding me. I was like, but he just, he doesn't listen. He still thinks he can just walk around, do whatever the hell he wants to do. So,
well, yeah, at least he doesn't have to use that old people stuff,
Yeah, he's hell bent on it. All right, let's throw down the topic of the week.
All right, sounds good. I always hate when we miss a week because then I forget like what section we're in.
Well, we were at getting near the end of 300, and we're going to go ahead and finish up 300, and then I actually saw on Facebook Bill posted something. Weren't you at the Rockies game or something like that?
Yeah, we went on the 3rd of July, shot some fireworks, watched some fireworks and stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah, really awesome, Daniel. Thanks for taking me, man. It was pretty cool. Got to see a bunch of my buddies and stuff.
I went over. We had a bunch of family over come in from New Orleans, and we had a big. They're from New Orleans. He did homemade jambalaya and these green beans and asparagus, all kinds of stuff. We had more food you'd shake a stick at. So I stayed around here, ate for a little bit. Then I went over to my daughter's. My other kids were here, and they just had a newborn. So I wanted to go over and see her. And then he has a pond there. We went fishing, caught a bunch of largemouth bass. That was fun. What's funny about it? I'd got a hold of a good one, and right when I got him up, he came off, and I kept going over spot, and we're about to go in. I said, let me cast one more, Robert. If he's on here, he'll tell you. I'll get him on here one day because he's actually an electrician. He's going to be taking over, and bless his heart, I'm going to help him get his master's and get him trained up for that. And he's going to take over his dad's business. His dad died 2 weeks ago.
Oh no! So, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing I'm dealing with. So that's another reason I went up there. And anyway, I threw over this one spot in the last cast, and I'll be dang if I didn't hit a big one. And we got him in and pulled him up. He goes, "That's bull." He goes, "You last cast, you get the biggest one." I was like, "Yeah, boy." And
there you go.
Then we went over the spot, and where their property is, there's a hill there, and they're about to eventually this area they're going to be putting some houses in, but right where it sets up and everything, you could look out and you could see Burleson, you could see Crowley, you could see Fort Worth, you could see all the surrounding cities all the way around the whole skyline, and you're just sitting there. And you could see fireworks going off everywhere.
Nice.
I mean, it was cool looking. I was like, why have I not known of this place before? Because I mean, and there were tons of people out there that knew about it. And all we did, we just took the 4-wheeler up there and got up on the hill there, and we had our drinks and stuff, and we were sitting back, and we were just sitting there watching all those fireworks go off, and you could see the big fireworks showing Fort Worth. There's something going on in Crowley, something in Burleson. There's something over in Benbrook. I mean, it was just everywhere. I was like,
Nice.
wow, this is a cool, probably the best fireworks show I ever saw.
Yeah, so me and Daniel, we were like pretty much as close as you could possibly get without having to get. So what they do is like at the Rockies when they shoot the fireworks, like all the people that are in certain rows and certain sections, they let them go out on the field. And because they're shooting the fireworks over the stands, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually moved all those people from the stands down onto the field.
That's
so
cool.
me and Daniel were like as close as you could get pretty much without having to get moved down on the field. Like, I mean, there was sparks coming pretty close over by us, like it was funny. We were kind of joking around because it started raining. We had a little bit of a hailstorm come, and like it was a lot of the people on around us started getting freaked out, and we're out of here. But it was weird because you could see the hail was just kind of getting caught in the lights and just kind of missing us.
Yeah.
It was kind of getting caught in the wind. It was almost like it passed, and it was like hail like probably hit pretty decent on like I would say it would be like the north side of the stadium, but we were on like the south side of the stadium, and it was weird. It just didn't come that far south, and so it was weird. It was like you could see the hail, and it was like swirling up in the wind, and it would just like kind of miss us.
It's funny you say that because I remember one time we had just done a haunted house and everything, and we were sitting out on the porch with Manji and me, and we were drinking a beer, and we just cleaned everything up, and I'd gone down and got a whole bunch of pizza and stuff. We were sitting there eating pizza, and we had kids from the high school that worked the haunted house, and they got extra credit that were in the drama club. And we're just sitting out there cutting up, drinking beer, eating beef pizza, and there was a like pea-sized hail, and you could hear it, and you could all of a sudden you could see it coming. And I mean, it wasn't like super fast enough, but you could see it coming down the street as the clouds were moving towards the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, now that's freaking cool. I mean, I'd never experienced that before where you could just see it coming after you. It's sort of like watching one of them movies, and, you see a sandstorm that's behind them and it's coming to grab them, in the Mummy or something. That's what it sort of felt like. But
yeah, this was actually like going past us, kind of. So it kind of like came towards us a little bit. Then it just kind of stayed going,
shifted,
like east and west. Like it was going towards the east, and we were on the south facing north, and we could just see all the hail, and it would like the hail was kind of like coming down, like it was gonna hit us, and then it would just kind of the wind would just catch it, and it would kind of like go down into the thing. And there was a few balls that kind of came up close to us, kind of, like foul balls and stuff. So it was pretty crazy. They were cranking them. Dude, what would you guess the final score of the game was? Just a baseball game, just a normal baseball game.
8-2.
It was 15-3.
Damn.
Rockies.
There were a lot of home runs in that game. What were there, like 5 home runs?
There was one grand slam for sure. It was like 7, and then they hit that grand slam. It was like 11 after that.
Damn.
And it was crazy because me and Daniel were joking. It was like Denver Broncos 14, 49ers 3 because they were playing the San Francisco Giants. And so we were joking around about that. But it was pretty funny. It was a lot of fun. Hang out with you, Daniel, and we'll let King James get his. I did send you an audio. I don't know if you got it or not, but it went to Drive. So we'll maybe have to address that for next week.
Yeah, that I did not get it. So
okay,
it just did not happen. I was looking at it, I was like, well, screwed on that one.
It didn't go to Drive?
For some reason, it wouldn't pull up for me. It wouldn't let me do it.
Okay.
So
Maybe I didn't provide the right link for you or something, but we'll figure it out.
yeah, we'll get it eventually. All right.
Okay.
So this is going to deal with your non-metallic wireways. Basically, same thing we talked about the other week. You can't recondition any of it, and it says that's any of your non-metallic wireways are the associated fittings, and of course they got where it says permitted to be installed, which is 378 3A. It's in the reserved right now, so there's no items listed there. Okay, so a very simple one. Then you come over and you look at 380.3A and B. And I tried to take and draw the illustrations sort of like what you would see out in the field. And this is where you're going to deal with your multi-outlet assemblies. And you're going to get the exact same thing we just looked at when we were doing the non-metallic wireways. But what I tried to do is sort of show the multi-outlet assembly, just like you would see, because these are the ones. So it's almost sort of like looking at wire mode in a way, but
Sure.
these set up a little bit different than the wire mode does, and they're a little bit more wider and they're a little bit more flat, and they don't have the little rivets in it and stuff like a wire mode does. And so what I tried to do is sort of show where you had the end caps and you had the plates where you connect them and everything, and then where you got the cap, it goes over it where you're making connections between the two. And then I tried to show the mounting back plate that you mount on the wall and everything. So this gives you an idea of what they're talking about. But
Yeah, I call that shit plug mold.
A lot of people do. That's what I call it too. But this gives everybody a good illustration, and basically you cannot recondition any of this. And
see that whole thing is so weird. They went through this whole entire thing of recondition. Like I went and took my continuing education for some of you guys who came in late. I spent all 4th of July weekend doing continuing education and get my credits for my Colorado Journeyman's.
Mm-hmm.
And there's what would you guess is the one area they didn't put reconditioned in?
Shoot, I don't know.
It was cannabis, hazardous location cannabis. So like you can actually get reconditioned cannabis equipment. It's not a code violation. So that was the only one that they missed it on. But then they said, well, if you do recondition, you have to go back to the hazardous location, because remember, that's a new one too.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, it was frustrating, because then it's like, oh yeah, well you have to comply with hazardous location because all that got reconditioned.
Yeah.
Remember that? They added that. That's like the big new thing they did in Class 1, Class 2, or was it a Division 1, Division 2, Division 3? All got reconditioned, no recondition.
And we actually we cover all that. So
nice.
Some of this, it's monotonous, and you get you're seeing all these things in here, but it's still important to know what took place, because these listing requirements and recondition, all this is important to what they did. And so anyway, so this one here is where we're dealing with strut type channel raceways where you're mounting stuff on it, and basically same thing, you can't recondition it or its accessories. So all we tried to do is put something up here where you would see it mounted on the wall, give you an idea of what strut type is. And that's one of the good things is we actually spent quite a bit of time going through and getting all of this set up to give you a good look of exactly what you would see if you're out there dealing with this stuff. So
that's cool.
I've looked at the other publication stuff out there. They're not showing you what this stuff looks like. I'm just telling you they're not. So all you
Dude,
had to do is go look.
I went through the whole entire code publication for Jade, and it was basic at best.
Yeah. And that's what you're going to see. Another one here where you're looking at your surface metal raceways. This one's in 386.3 A and B. It's still exactly the same thing when you look at your recondition requirements. They've got the reserve section, and they say any of your surface metal raceways or associated fittings, they can't be reconditioned. And what I try to do is sort of show the back of these raceways, what the interior looks like and how they mount on there. And then you showing the end caps and stuff that would go where you're taking and making a 90 and all of that. So what we try to do is give you an idea of where you would see these used. And of course, these will be mounted on the side of a structure that you can mount it and it'd be square on there. Usually where I see these is in a commercial building where they're coming down through a ceiling tile or something, and then they come down and they run them up against the walls if they needed extra. So
like plug mold or
it's almost like
not plug mold, wire mold.
Yeah, it's almost like wire mold.
Yeah.
So the same thing here. This is the other one was metal. This is non-metallic. Exactly. It looks exactly the same. It'll come in a white color, and then you got boxes that are mounted for it and all of that. It's all assembly that works together, and it's either non-metallic or metal. Most of the time I see they're going to use non-metallic. They don't even use a metal.
Yeah, the Panduit actually has a really nice stuff that's pretty affordable. I think that's what we used the last time I had to deal with it, because that Panduit's non-metallic and it's just easier to work with, easier to cut.
Sure it is.
You don't have the sharp edges and stuff either.
That's right. That's exactly right. Then you get into your cable trays, and you're going to get into the same stuff here. And one of the things we tried to do here when we looked at this is, because when we get into these cable trays, I've actually seen where they've actually tried to recondition these and use them.
Well, like basket trays?
Yeah. And
I
think this really needed to be there more than any of the others. And they're basically saying you cannot take and recondition cable trays, associated fittings, or anything. They cannot be reconditioned, and then it'll have, a reserved one there for permitted to be installed. And what we tried to show here, and one of the reasons you got to remember, you're coming in that these cable trays are set up, and I've seen where they may have something damaged. They cut it off and weld it together and everything. Then what they ended up doing was collapsing the allowable fill area. That's where I've seen where a problem comes in. So what we tried to do is it's
not like they exceed the allowable fill area ever.
Yeah, no kidding. But that sort of gives you an idea, got the same rules there. And then they added one more here for the cable tray. And this is where we got into the access, and this is an 18F. And when you get over and you look at 18F and you get into the exceptions, basically they're going to tell you the access, you got to have a minimum space of 12 inches. And that's
I think that's a good one, because they like to stack that stuff tight.
Mm-hmm. And they're telling you that's the access above the cable tray. So I thought this was very important. And then you've got some other things that you need to look at. And there's going to be 4 exceptions there. And one of them they're going to deal with is where you have your IT equipment rooms, and they're going to refer you over to 645.5 for that, because there's different rules over there. Then another one they're going to address here is where you're in an industrial establishment. And this is, of course, where you only have conditions of maintenance and supervision. And you're ensuring that only a qualified person is going to service that cable tray. Okay.
Well, spoiler alert, that's what my audio was about. It was about qualified person. So
Okay. Well,
so we'll maybe do that next week.
We'll be able to go through that. And the exception 3, what it's going to state, it's going to say by special permission, you can have smaller distances. So there has to be a reason. And if by special permission, you're going to have to go through the AHJ or the facility that's going to give you that permission. And
yeah, and that's what's so weird. I think it is weird for me when they start putting all this stuff in the code, because I'm already asking the inspector, like, hey, you know, are you okay with this? Because a lot of times we can't do like what the code says we have to do.
that's
Like
right.
it's just impossible. And so I'm sitting there, hey, would you let me, you know, go 6 inches here and 6 inches there and split the difference kind of and do this and oh yeah, you can do that, you know. And so it's just weird that they're trying to push this so hard to be like this, almost like pushing it towards like an installation manual, where it's not. We have to be smart out in the field and figure out, hey, is this going to block Daniel's pipe run that he just ran? He just ran his lighting pipe run, and maybe we can't put this basket tray there now, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we'll just make Daniel move his
Well,
his
that's
pipe.
one reason we show the illustration with access and then put all the exceptions there, because you're going to have to
Sure.
look at it, but there are some options there, and you just need to look at it and see what is permissible at that point.
100%. No, I like that. That illustration's good because they do use that basket tray quite a bit.
And you dang right they do. That's why we did it.
Yeah.
All right. Then we had 404.3A and B. And when you get over here and you look at 404, that's going to deal with your switches. And the same thing is going to happen here, is they're going to tell you what is permitted to be reconditioned. Now, the ones that are permitted to be reconditioned is a knife switch. You got a switch with butt contacts, or it's a bolted pressure contact switch. Okay. All the others that are going to be listed, that's where you pick up your lighting, your dimmer, any type of your electronic control switches. None of those are any molded case switches. Those are not permitted to be reconditioned. But if it's a knife switch with butt contacts, or bolted pressure contact switches, those are permitted to be reconditioned.
So is that in 404?
Yeah, 404.3A and B.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Then when you go look at 404.30 and you pick this one up, this is going to deal with your switch enclosures with doors or hinge covers. And all they're going to tell you here is when you have switches that are mounted within enclosures that have doors or hinge covers, that they are going to be required to be a dead front.
All right.
Now, the only way that they're not required to be a dead front is unless access to the interior is going to require the use of a tool.
Right.
Okay. So,
Ooh,
but other than
Tommy
that,
Davis.
it would have to be dead front.
That's the Tommy Davis rule.
Yep. So we just want to make sure we pointed that out to you. Now,
Nice.
406.9, this is where we're going to get. Now, one of the things I want to point out here is when you go over to 406, that's going to be a new article, and that's going to be wiring devices. Okay. And when you go over and you look at 406.9, this is where they're going to talk about wiring devices in damp or wet locations. Okay. And when you get over here and you look at this, one of the things that I would point out, because you're going to be looking at A2, and this is the one that we just pulled out. There's more we could look at. But it says when you have switches installed in damp locations, you have to comply with certain conditions here. And they're going to tell you if it's a surface mounted switch it has to be enclosed in a weatherproof enclosure. And if it's
Sure.
a flush mounted switch, it has to also be equipped with what? Weatherproof covers.
True.
Okay. So they sort of go in, and the reason we did damp is because a lot of people are like, oh, it's damp, I don't have to put it in a weatherproof enclosure if it's surface mount. Yeah, you do.
And I think what the way that kind of distinguishes is, I think that you have to use a cover that is wet location rated when in operation, and I think in a damp location you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a damp location, it just has to be weatherproof enclosure, but the cover doesn't have to be weatherproof while in operation. So I think that's the big distinction between a damp location and a wet location there.
Well, a wet location, the enclosure has to be weatherproof, whether or
True.
not the attachment plug cap is inserted. It doesn't matter,
True.
but the
Yeah.
enclosure has to be.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what you were saying, but I was going to make sure.
Well, it's hard to say because I'm kind of doing it from a wiring device that's like a receptacle. And so the receptacle would have to be, the receptacle cover plate would have to be weatherproof while in operation.
Yeah.
And then in a damp location, it doesn't. It just has to enclose the live parts, whether it's in operation or not.
Well,
So basically, you can use a flip cover in a damp location. You have to use an in-use cover in a wet location.
yeah. Well, and I'll give you another good one, because I think this is interesting, and I've brought this up because we've had this outlet argument, and when
What? Nuh-uh.
oh yeah, we have, and when you pick this up, right below that, when you get into wet locations, and I think it's B1, and I think it's B, the next one, because I think A is weatherproof enclosure first. But it gives a term there. And guess what the term is? Outlet box hood.
Yeah.
And it says an outlet box hood that you install for whatever purpose you're using it for. It has to be listed and identified as extra duty. Okay. Now, the reason I bring that up, because it says outlet box hood. I thought everything was an outlet anyway. Why would you have to call it an outlet? But what is an outlet box hood? All that is, it's just a protective enclosure, or some will call it an enclosure component. But basically, what does it do? It attaches to the electrical outlet box.
Well, yeah, and it allows weather
outlet box.
It allows protection for when the electricity's in use.
That's right. And basically, it provides a form of what? Physical protection. And basically, it takes and it shields your receptacles, your switches, or whatever type wiring device from any accidental contact or damage. That's basically what it's for. And when you look at that, it's a NEMA enclosure, and basically what does it have? It has a weather resistant rating, whether it's installed indoors or outdoors, or even in harsh environments. That's what it's really for. And and I'll bring another, because you could look at fixture installations, for instance, and basically what you're doing, you're providing a protective hood around a luminaire device that's mounted to what? Now,
an outlet.
That's right.
Yeah, so we run into this. So there's two cases where we run into this. The first one with the luminaire is in explosion-proof locations.
Mm-hmm.
The explosion-proof point is at the outlet.
Yeah.
The luminaire is already rated by the manufacturer for explosion-proof, and all we do is take that whip and we tie it into that outlet box. and then that's where the outlet is. It's not inside the luminaire. And that's what's so funny when you see Weed Man, because he's he did like 2 days of residential, then became a instructor. But it's crazy because so we ran into this. I was doing a car wash, and I had the inspector. I just did like a courtesy walk, just to kind of have him walk through some stuff, make sure everything was good. Well, there was these 2 pieces of equipment, and he's like, "That's not gonna fly." He's like, he goes, I could just sit there and I could take my pressure washer instead of washing my car, and I could just spray it right in that unit, And I was like, well, that's not normal operation, for one.
Try.
But I was like, okay. He goes, no. He goes, I'm not gonna sign off on those things. He's like, I need some kind of literature from the manufacturer, and that's a wet location rated piece of equipment, and I agree with him. It was like you could just take the wand of the pressure washer and spray it right in there, and spray the wire and spray inside and the contactor, everything in there, right? And yeah, if you were hell bent on messing up that car wash, then you're gonna mess it up. I mean, it's nothing you could do. That's not normal operation. The code can't provide for that. And so I reached out to manufacturer and I said, and what it was I came up with seal tie. I came into the equipment and then I just ran wild right with them. And I did it all nice. I used sticky backs. I zip tied right by their stuff. And he's like, no, it's got to be seal tie all the way into the controller, And I was like, their wire's wild inside there. Why can't my wire be wild inside there, And so I got documentation from the manufacturer. And manufacturer's like, that's a dry location. And that's a dry location under normal operation. Doesn't matter if somebody's up there spraying their wand in there. That's still a dry location from the manufacturer. And guess what? The AHJ has to honor that. So it was really interesting to get that kind of clarification. And then when I got that letter and I showed the AHJ, he was like, you know what, Bill? He's like, you really taught me a lot. He goes, I think inspectors are kind of overstepping our bounds a lot when it comes to some of this stuff, because we should just wash our hands. The minute you terminate to the equipment, we just wash our hands. You did it right. You got it sealed tight to the place. If something screws up inside that equipment, it goes back on the manufacturer. It's not on the code. The code's not wrong. The code says waterproof up to that piece of equipment. After that, it's on the manufacturer. If the manufacturer didn't make that a dry enough location, that's on them. That's not on the NEC.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting, but that's where I came up with that whole thing. And then we run the same thing with these AC units, and they're like, oh, well, it's called a power outlet from the manufacturer. Well, that's fine. I'm glad that the manufacturer lists it as a power outlet, because the NEC doesn't.
Yeah. That's right.
So, it's a lot of fun to do it, and I think that there's still a little bit of store rear ends from the 62554B little thing that happened, and
use the code as a whole, as we've been saying forever.
That was a pretty big fall out of the apple tree and stuff, and they figured out what gravity was like when decisions come downhill and bite you in the behind with the Standards Council. But that was really fun. It's so funny. I still go back and watch some of the videos that they all made. Jesse made a video this guy's not very intelligent. I'm like, yeah, but they did exactly what I wanted them to do. So I don't know.
That's right.
They proved the exact point I was trying to make, that you're gonna sit there and say all, and that was in the audio that I sent you to, because they're like, oh man, if you hear a rumor that all EBSE needs to have GFCI protection, that's wrong. That's that's
really
yeah, you know what I mean. I'm like, okay, cool. I wonder how that happened, but it's pretty cool. So I guess we'll head over to Tool.
Tool the week.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by the Christian's Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
So I've actually ran a bunch of tour reviews on these kind of products in the past. This is like actually a Milwaukee temp gun. And what's crazy is you can find some amazing problems in electrical just by measuring temperature. Now, I will have to do a disclaimer for you, James. I did not test a cherry of a cigarette with this, but I might have. I might have tested a cherry of a cigarette because one of the things that a lot of guys do, like when it comes to classified locations, hazardous locations, is everyone says, "Oh man, no smoking at the pump." Well, what is a cigarette? What temperature does it run at? Well, a idle cigarette runs at about 700 degrees. So I don't know if you ever seen in the Western movies where they flick the cigarette butt in a can of gasoline and it blows up. Well, that's pretty much impossible because in order for that cigarette to be at like the flash temperature to actually ignite gasoline, you have to be actively dragging on it at a pretty hot temperature. I think it's like 800 and something degrees is the flash point of gasoline. So that's why just an idle cigarette won't. And I actually saw cigarettes get up to in the neighborhood of 850 degrees while we were actively dragging on it like pretty heavily. So that's not what this is for. It's not to test the heat of a cigarette while you're taking a drag, but that's a good way to test it, and it's a good way to kind of have fun at your house while you're messing around. But one of the things, or even out with the guys on their smoke break, you can see who could get the hottest temperature with your temp gun. But like I didn't do that. We did not have a drag race. Oh, did it? Sorry about that. That was bad. That was really bad. But no, one of these things is really nice. And I told James about this situation. We had one time we were doing a job, and I had to run like some pipes that were right next to these other ones. It was the same exact piece of equipment. So it was like I think it was like 1,000 amp furnace, and we had to run another 1,000 amp furnace. So had my ladder, and I was sitting there like trying to size up the 90s and try to get it ready so that we could just run it. And I noticed the pipes were warm, and I told the maintenance guy, I was like, "Hey, like these pipes are warm, dude. I don't think that's good, And I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "Something isn't right. Like you got the wire size wrong or something, because it shouldn't be warm." And he goes, "Well, that thing's drawing like I think it was like 800 amps on heating." And so he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Next time you see that red light on, that means it's in heating." He's like, "Come get me. We'll come get a temp gun." And I was like, "All right." So I looked over. I saw it was in heating. I was like, "Okay, let's see how the pipe was." And I mean, I could barely touch it. Like it was scorching. And I was like, "Whoa." I mean, it was like a curling iron. I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "That's hot,"
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to that guy. I was like, grab her temp gun. I don't remember what brand. I don't think it was a Milwaukee, but he grabbed a temp gun, and we went and shot it. And one of the couplings was 300 degrees. And I was just blown away. I've never seen anything like it. So what happened was they did a thing, what we call mass hysteresis. And they had all the browns in one conduit, and they had all the oranges in another conduit, and they had all the yellows in another conduit. So they were creating like inductance, and like you just don't do that. That's the whole reason why you run like brown, orange, yellow in one conduit, brown, orange, yellow in the other conduit, brown, orange, yellow in the other conduit, because those tip of my tongue, basically the current fields will oppose each other as they're going. So and especially like when you have like a metallic raceway, like if it was like an aluminum raceway, it probably wouldn't matter. But aluminum or PVC or something like that probably wouldn't matter. But since there was nothing to oppose it, then what happened was it got really hot and the conductors all melted together. And so it was crazy because they essentially melted into like one conductor. And so the reason that it didn't blow up, because a lot of the apprentices, like I would say, hey, if I take 2 browns, I strip the insulation off and I tie them together and I turn it on, what'll happen? Well, it'll blow up. It's like, no, it won't, because it's on the same phase. So it's just stuff like that, like the electrical theory, that this kind of helps. It's one of those tools where if you see some major heat in an electrical system, you got some kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those tools that I've been learning how to use throughout my 31 years, just to help kind of diagnose a problem. But the thing that was really alarming was we shot that coupling. It was 300 degrees, and I pulled one of the covers off of the gear, and it was just like an access cover. It didn't have anything energized in there. But I pull that access cover off, and the conductors are basically passing through. And I noticed he only ran 1 ground wire and 3 parallel runs.
Mm-hmm.
And the ground is smoking. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, shoot the temp gun on that. And it was 157 degrees, the ground wire. And so then I'm like, wow. I was like, it's smoking. I was like, let me see how much amps is in it. And I put my amp clamp on it, and I want to say it was like 300 and something amps. And so then, and then we're like, all right, it's done with this heating cycle. Let's shut it down, and we got to fix this. We ended up, I think he had like parallel 250s in there, and he pulled like 4 in 3 different conduits. And then what we did is we pulled it all out. We pulled it all back in with 500s, and we pulled 500s parallel. So it wasn't quite 1,000. I think it was like 9 something. But we just used your little method where you just drop down to the next standard size. But no, I'm just kidding. No, it was. We actually had an adjustable, and we actually were able to dial it down to the ampacity of the conductor rating, and that furnace did run for 3 hours or more, so we did have to treat it as continuous. But what I found out was that the ground wire was actually acting as a neutral, and it was trying to balance the unbalance of that load, and that's why it had that ampacity on it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting. I learned a lot, but like I say, the real big tool of that whole learning lesson was the temp gun. And it was funny because these guys, they were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They didn't know what was going on. And I just said, you know what? I said, I know what happened. I was like, it's mass hysteresis. And that mass hysteresis happens when you group all those same phase conductors in the same raceway on a metallic raceway. It builds up inductance. And then you get all that inductance going the same direction, and then it causes a heating, it causes a magnetism,
right?
And there's a lot of problems that it causes. So make sure that you offset that. But that's the whole real reason to have like a heat gun is pretty nice. And then of course. And I know King James taught me this, is you could actually shoot your beer, see if it's cold enough to drink too, So, that's another reason that you got to run it. But really,
even multi-use products.
Yeah, so really cool tool. And like I say, I think this Milwaukee one is pretty competitive. Probably one of the, you're probably going to pay for that Milwaukee name a little bit, but it seems like it's pretty quality, and probably up there as far as like the type of things that it could be used for. So pretty good tool to have in the arsenal. But like I say, it's probably a little bit of a rerun. I probably ran some temp guns in the past, but it's been quite a few years since I ran a temp gun. But so just one of those things, like me and King James, we're over there having drag races with people in the smoke area to see who could get the biggest temperature on the freaking temp gun. But, is what it is. So, all right, we're going to head on to, what is it, Man vs. Machine?
Man versus Machine.
All right.
For years, man tried to create artificial intelligence. On this segment, we find out, is AI smarter than King James?
I just saw a notification pop up on Rumble. So thanks everyone for jumping on over at Rumble. That's really cool. We got some people hanging out over there on the green side. So appreciate you guys.
Let's see what you got this week.
This one's a little wonky. This comes straight out of the Jade continuing education course. So when I read it, I was like, I was like, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me, but.
Well, I mean, that is a new definition that they put in Article 100. It's not even over in Article 722. And I don't remember any. I mean, because you could have, it could be a class 2 circuit, a class 3, class 4. You got optical fiber there. You got your CATV.
I agree.
Your network powered broadband, your fire alarm circuits, communication circuits. I mean, all those are limited energy. I mean,
let's just say I got it wrong. So
I would say none of the above.
I mean, the thing is, the weird part is, I think that Jade must have ran this through AI possibly, because to me, when AI got the right answer, I was like, how did you get that right answer? It made no sense, and you could tell nobody really tried to answer it in the group because it was so bizarre. And so I like none of the above. I actually put all the answers that was in the continuing education, so none of the above was not even in the realm of answers that you could even put in Jade. I put D 4 circuits. So let's just see what ChatGTP has to say about it. See if maybe ChatGTP says the same as you. Maybe. See.
That is okay. Let me share screen.
It's a weird question. I didn't understand what it was going for. I looked up definition. I looked everywhere in the code. I couldn't find nothing on it.
Well, let's see what it says. Nine circuits.
That is the correct answer, and I don't understand where it gets that. I think it lists out the different types, possibly, of circuits that were added. That was 9 different circuits that were added.
There's 9 things that are listed, but
I don't agree with it. I think it's a stupid question.
Let me read it again, because it says the 26. Let me go back up here.
I thought it would show the actual something in the definition, but it didn't. It didn't say like there was 9 specific listed circuits in there. So you're going to limit it to 9 circuits? I thought we could limit it to 1 outlet and individual branch circuit.
I don't understand that. That is
weird.
That is a terrible question.
But see how they must have ran it through AI, because like AI just answers it like it's matter of fact, like, oh yeah, we know that. You know, these are your list of circuits that's in that definition. Like, I get it. I don't know. To me, honestly, I said 4 circuits because I thought it would be like more than 2 or something.
Well, see, let me read the question again. 1 or more.
It didn't even align with the definition. it was wonky. I was like, where did they get this from? It came out of nowhere. I don't know. I don't know. I wanted to post it. I wanted to kind of discuss it with you
Well,
because
you can't say circus because some of them could be systems.
yeah, 100%.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense. We're just going to act like this is not a question of the week. That is ridiculous.
All right, I will allow it.
That
This
makes
one
no
is-
sense because you're saying circus. It could be a system. It might not even be a circuit. Matter of fact, let me go over. I want to look and see what the definition. Give me a second.
So I'm actually gonna disqualify AI for cheating. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I was listing, different types of limited energy conductors and fibers and stuff that could be used. So I'm looking over, see, optical fiber systems. It doesn't say circuits. See, that's what I'm saying. That is not a good question. Because
I agree.
yeah.
To me, the reason I wanted to run it because I wanted to disqualify AI for cheating on the homework. So I think I'm gonna
agree with that one. That's a bad question.
I think I'm gonna give you the win. I'm gonna disqualify AI. I think AI was in cahoots with Jade. I think they had like a little back deal going or something. So
that was a terrible question. I don't care what anybody says. That was terrible.
Yeah. Dude, it was weird because like when I was reading it, like almost everything I was getting right off the top of my head, I was like, oh yeah, that's easy. And then I got to that one, I was like, well, let me try to find it in the code. And it's not in the code, dude. Like you can sit there and look all you want. It's not in there. Like it's weird. Like, and just like you say, a fiber optic cable or a fiber optic system. It's not a circuit.
That's right.
And there's no freaking outlet. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's what I was saying. That just the way they had that worded, I was like, that doesn't really make any sense because it could be a system. And that's why I was saying, class 1 or class 1, 2, 3, 4. I was counting things in my, what was there, and I was like, that is not adding up right. So
it was weird. It was a weird question. Like I got it wrong. I said 4 circuits because I was thinking when they said how many circuits, I was kind of thinking like Cat 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of thinking like you have 4 circuits, like 4 active circuits and maybe 2 grounding or something. You know, like that would have been a more regular answer. But then they list those 9 different like. What those don't like you said, those aren't necessarily, you could say there's 8 and fiber optics a system, not a circuit. So I don't know. I thought it was cool to bring it up and then actually get you to firsthand try to answer one of my continuing education questions that I got wrong because I was kind of mad. I was like, when I got it wrong, I was like, man, I was getting 100%, 100%, 100%. And then I got one wrong. I was like, what did I get wrong? And then I was like, what? Well, I was like, where you come with 9 circuits?
That's all I got to say about that question. All right. So we're going to get ready for the Willie quiz, and I will. I've been saving them for Jeremy, but he doesn't come on anymore.
Yeah, right. He's all scared.
Willie quiz time.
I love it when I do the little knee slap. You know, that means it's going down. Like when I do that knee slap, dude, it's on.
I guess we're
So
probably doing some junior hockey thing tonight.
no, dude, actually, you're gonna love it. It's really super easy. We're doing OSHA right up your alley.
Oh,
You're gonna love it. Yeah, you're gonna love it. Oh yeah, this could be like if you're citing like a homeowner too, like Jeremy always says. I don't know where he comes up with that. All right, but over the past 10 years, what consistently has been the leading cause of fatal occupational injuries in the United States? Is it A, falls, slips, and trips? Is it B, contact with objects and equipment? Is it C, transportation location?
Incidents.
Transportation. I was thinking like logistics for some reason. Transportation incidents. D, electrocution, or E, none of the above. Good luck, everyone.
Well, it's been a couple of years since I've done anything with NFPA, but we always showed this dealing with OSHA and going through all this. And I would have to say there's more transportation accidents than there are anything than it's falls, slips, and trips.
All right. So it looks like you are going to go ahead and copy Daniel. Let's see, if that statistic stays true there. Boom! You got it correct. We have the first correct answer. The 9th question, number 1, you are correct. Approximately how many workers die from traumatic occupational injuries in the U.S. during a typical year? Is it about 2,000? Is it about 3,500? Is it about 5,000? Is it about 8,000? Or is it about 10,000? Good luck, everyone.
Well, if my mind serves me right from remembrance, it's about 4,500. So I'll go with C.
Let's see. Looks like Daniel is thinking about copying you. And Daniel's going 10K. Oh, Daniel's going over the top. Oh man, let's see. King James get this 49.70. So you were really, really close on that one.
I knew it was 4,000 and something. I couldn't remember the exact number, but I was thinking around 4,500.
You're almost nailed it. What OSHA standard has appeared most often near the top of OSHA's annual top 10 most frequently cited standards during the last decade? Was it A, lockout tagout, B, hazard communications, C, fall protection, construction, D, electrical general requirements, or E, ladder safety? Good luck, everyone.
Well, I'm going to go, my memory serves me right, it would be fall protection.
Well, looks like Daniel is going ladder safety. Might have us a little standoff here. King James takes the lead, leaves Daniel in the dust. Answer is C, ball protection. You are correct, sir. And actually, Daniel, I'm surprised you didn't know that because he just had some ball protection. People go home on his job site. Approximately, how often does a worker die from a work-related injury in the United States based on recent BLS data? Is it every 30 minutes, every 60 minutes, every 104 minutes, every 4 hours, or every 5.5 hours? Good luck, everyone.
Well, it's recent. I know it used to be. We used to teach this NFPA, but it was like 162 at one point. So I assume it probably went down to about 100. I'll say 104.
Let's
I
see.
don't think it's gone down every 60 minutes, but that
All
is
right.
everything I'm guessing tonight. C.
So it looks like Daniel is. It looks like you're gonna copy Daniel's answer of C. King James goes 5 for 5 tonight, takes the win, crushes Daniel.
Oh, we got one
Can't.
more.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh, 4 for 4. 4 for 4. All right. Which industry? Oh, dude, Daniel still has a chance.
I'm
Daniel
getting
still has a
this
chance.
one. I'm getting this
All
one.
right.
I'm going 5 for 5 tonight.
All right. Which industry has consistently recorded the highest number of workplace fatalities over the last decade? Manufacturing, construction, retail, trade, healthcare, or fire alarm? Good luck, everyone. I feel bad. I feel bad. I jumped the gun. I didn't look at what question we were on, but
This will be the first one I didn't guess C tonight, and it's going
All
to
right.
be construction.
all right. So looks like you're gonna copy Daniel. Try to go 5 for 5. Daniel goes 3 for 5. What an awesome contest we had tonight. King James takes the OSHA easy win. I told you it was gonna be easy. Told you the whole time it was gonna be easy. But next week is NBA players that can dunk. No, I'm just kidding. But it's gonna be harder next week. Maybe we'll see.
I know.
I'm gonna do
doing the dunking tonight.
Yeah, it was all King James, the original King James from TCU over there in the '80s, just dunking on Daniel. But like it's so much fun to like have the inside jokes and just kind of like joke around with like members of the chat and everything. And appreciate you coming in, Daniel. Daniel's a really good sport, and it's a lot of fun. Like when King James dunks on him, like it's kind of messed up because he kind of like hangs on the rim and he just kind of like stays there for a minute.
Then
It's like
yeah,
it's not polite. So like Daniel's a really good sport for like when King James dunks, he like dunks like aggressively. Like Daniel's like, dude, you don't have to break the glass, bro. You know what I mean? Like it's like
he saw me coming. He said, King James looked like Michael Jordan flying through there sideways. and bring the ball over.
Dude, I'm telling you,
His
we
tongue
got.
was even hanging out.
Dude, we actually have this dog. It's a little like a puppy. We just got him, but this dog, it's got like the longest leg. It's a tall dog, but it's like a Chihuahua mix. But I saw it do the Michael Jordan today. Like it jumped from like all the way at like the edge of the carpet and like all the way to the couch. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, he just pulled the Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? But it was funny. It like jumped like 5 foot in the air and then just soared over to the couch, you know. I was like, what the heck? I was like, that was the Michael Jordan dunk, you know what I mean? That was the Air Jordan, you know. Like, it was so funny. It's like,
wow, boy, I'm telling you.
yeah, first you jump 5 foot in the air, then you just soar to where you want to be, you know. Like it just like none of the other dogs could do that. They're just sitting there looking at that dog like, what the heck? But
I've always made the joke. I said the reason Jordan hung so high in the air because his tongue was hanging out, keeping him airborne.
yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean Jordan was like really special. Like you look at like Jordan, Terrell Davis, like some of the stuff you see like those guys do. They actually competed at a high level and like they weren't even at 100%. Jordan had the flu, Terrell Davis had migraines, you know, and they were still able to compete at a high level. And the reason why was because they compete at a high level day to day, and everyone just took them serious. If they're in the game, they're going to be bringing their A game. And then even if they weren't on their A game, they could do the play action or the fake or act like they're going to pass it to and pass it to somebody else. And then I think the Bulls had like Scottie Pippen and, you know, Rodman and like other players that they could, you know, lean on. And then Jordan could just kind of be like a decoy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of things we look at. Oh, dang, it's a tornado. We got a tornado coming over towards Texas, y'all.
Got an Amber Alert.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I thought it was a tornado. Dude! We never got a tornado live on here from Texas. Oh, dude, that would be awesome, man. We get a live tornado. Oh, dude. And then your dad would be like,
I'm shut down.
then your dad would be like knocking at the door. Hey, you know all these sirens going on out here? Like,
Get your ass off that podcast, boy.
That's so funny. But we got one left. Appreciate you guys joining. We'll check out the Wall of Shame.
Here we go.
Shame. 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 Shame.
Dude, that is one thing I need to see if like I could get like my my AI music to like reproduce the Wall of Shame song.
That's a good one.
Dude, this is like an overhead and it's hard to see. I probably should have like went a little closer, zoomed in, but they got like all this bonded in. Like all those metal pipes are like bonded in. It's all bonded to like the gutter, and I mean, there's like it was funny. One of the comments in there was like, "Call 911," because you have a chance for that unbalanced current to just be energized anywhere in that that area of that's being bonded. You know, like that is not a good setup to.
Is that overseas? Is that here in the United States?
That's a good question. I didn't really look. It seems like Jason Chen, maybe it could be like Panama or somewhere, you know, it could be like somewhere probably maybe continental, but not necessarily America. I don't know. It was pretty weird. Like when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that's a spicy one. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sort of looking at it. It's
they have all the mass bonded together, then they have it bonded to the metal on the gutter, and nothing's that could be likely become energized. So I don't know. To me, that's a big spooky one. I saw it's like that whole thing could become energized if it wanted to.
Yeah, sort of. I'm trying to look here.
They have like ground clamps on the actual mast themselves, and then they have like copper going to the gutter, going between the masts. There's bonding everywhere on there. There's like bonding on all kinds of stuff. They have like lugs hanging off the gutter. They have lugs hanging off just everything. Like they have
Well, the one thing I'm noticing is where they do have stuff wrapped. It looks like it's laying on the gutter.
Yeah. It's just like
That's
that one.
for sure.
Yeah, that one was weird because not only do you bond it from the parts likely to become energized, but then you're putting the ungrounded conductors on the parts likely to become energized. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just I mean, a big windstorm come up, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. It's hard
I
to tell where it's
I should have
something.
I should have screenshotted it and blowed it up so you could see the actual service mass better. And I might do that in the future. Just
I've increased it a little bit, but I still can't see it that well.
yeah, it's just weird. It's just wonky. It's out of control. But I really appreciate Daniel coming by. Thanks so much for taking me to the Rockies game. That was so much fun. Got to see so many of my buddies, and it was cool. I saw my buddy Wayne. Big shout out to Wayne Walton. He's one of my good friends. He runs security over there at Coors Field, and he's a really good dude. And got to see him, and it's funny because he'll always be like, "Hey man, come on in." I'm like, "Nah, I gotta have a ticket," you know. And he's like, "No, come on in." I'm like, "No, I gotta have a ticket," you know. And it's just funny because he's a really cool dude, but it's like, man, I want to get busted in there without a ticket, you know. But it's funny. Oh yeah, just come on in. You're cool. And it's like Wayne's such a cool dude that it's like he'll make sure that he checks my ticket and everything, you know. So it's really cool. He's just joking around, you know, and like it's funny. Like Wayne's just a good dude, and it's so much fun. Like he always is just like, yeah, you know, I just want you to come hang out with me at the Rockies game, you know, and so when I saw him, we were coming down from the stairs, and I saw him. I was like, "Yeah, what's up, Wayne? What's going on, man?" You know, I was like, "Look, I got my ticket," you know, and it was so funny, you know, because that's his job. He does security, so he checks tickets and stuff, and so Wayne's a really good dude, and it was a lot of fun going to the Rockies game, and had a great time doing it. So means a lot, and I appreciate you, Daniel, for taking me, and we had a good time watching fireworks, stuff like that. So I don't know, man, I don't really got too much more to go over, and like I said, I think we had a really good show, and next week I think you'll really like it. I got some stuff planned out for next week, and like I say, as always, remember, make every day an easy day. I'm out. I got nothing else.
And if you're be good, and if you're bad, be good at it.
Yeah.
Peace. We're out of here.
Use your rocker.
That's right.
Use your